After a long hiatus, welcome back to AnyWho. And we've got quite a few people on the chair today because we've got a lot to discuss. So, first of all, in the far corner there, we have Blake Emery, who's normally behind the control desk, but he's stepped out today to join us.
Stepped up is the word.
Stepped up, yeah.
I've probably done as many episodes as everyone now.
He probably has, actually, yeah. And we have Daniel Northover, who's been with us before and can talk the hind leg off a donkey, just like Merv can next to me. So this is Merv Jones. How very dare you?
Absolutely disgusting.
And of course me, Sharon Coltman, who's just sits here and scratches her head a lot.
Me and Sharon are expecting a quiet one today. Well, for us anyway.
Yeah, we're going to be quite quiet. And they're going to be
very shy and retiring.
So I think we want to really just, because there's so many episodes, I think we probably just want to go and do an overview of the whole lot, really. So first of all, what have we thought about this season so far?
On the whole, I've enjoyed it. There hasn't been a single episode where I've gone, ooh, ooh, that's not that. Ooh.
Yeah,
and there have been ups and downs within episodes, but on the whole, I think the quality has risen.
Yeah.
I will say, oh my God, it's so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I can't. Last season had some interesting points and some nice bits and all that, but this season feels a much more watchable thing. And indeed, the number of, again, the internet's not a place to look if you want to find people who are happy, but the number of people who seem to feel the same just seems vastly improved over what it was. So
I'm quite surprised it's improved so much though, because obviously they filmed the series back to back. They filmed most of it before even the first one had come out, so there wasn't really time for them to fix stuff. So unless they did reshoots to fix some things, unless the plan for season 2 was just so much better, because the first one was just an introduction to these characters, with it being a full reboot. But it is interesting how it's so different.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because had there been a bigger gap between filming the two seasons, you could get a sense of, like, perhaps, we've had the notes in and the fans don't like this and the critics don't like that, so we could do that and the other. No, like you say, they ploughed on. They ploughed on. Now, without jumping the gun a little bit here, moving on to the next season, when there is actually a gap, how much will be learnt? What will they capitalise on? And develop and take further. Who knows?
Especially if they're saying 2027 as well.
Allegedly, but it's the show's in safe hands. Look, we'll just nip this one in the bud, okay? For all those online who are saying, it's all been cancelled every year. I hear the same thing. The same thing. The show fundamentally makes money. It makes a ton of money. Okay, revenues are over 100 million per year on worldwide sales, worldwide sales even, get the words out. It ain't going anywhere. Will you just calm it down? This, once again, though, is another example of people actually don't know the facts. So they make stuff up, they speculate, others pick up on that speculation, and then that
turns into more speculation,
Just to speculate, it was probably Disney that did it all along, that started the rumours anyway. Because it was very conveniently timed. Just before the announcement of the series release date and all that, all these rumours came out and gave a push to everyone saying, like, oh, you need to watch Doctor Who if you want it to stay, kind of thing. It was a bit suspicious.
I mean, fundamentally, though, there's too much... Disney aside, there's been too much investment in Bad Wolf as a company for it, and for a studio, for it to continue forward to, and Doctor Who is obviously not... It's not going to be the only thing they're going to make. It's going to be their biggest, most consistent breadwinner.
We do think, because we haven't heard anything from like the Unit TV show or anything like that was meant to happen, so I'm not sure if they kind of pulled back on that because of funding. But even if they completely lost Disney's money now, Disney have already purchased a lot of assets for Bad Wolf Studios anyway. Like the TARDIS is built, they don't need to rebuild that. They're keeping that. you know, unless they want to rebuild it, they'll probably just theme it slightly different if they were going to do anything.
I mean, once again, we've had no official announcement from anybody, and I think that's what frustrates people.
Yeah.
And when they don't know, they just make stuff up.
Yeah.
Make stuff up.
And you've also got the people that don't like. They don't like a doctor that's female. They don't like a doctor that's gay, and so they just, you know,
It's
they're
anything and
arseholes
everything,
about
you know,
it.
There's always
really.
something.
They don't
Yeah.
like a doctor that's young or old or
exactly.
different in some way. Or,
Yeah.
or
He's not David Tennant, and that's
he's
the end
not,
of it.
or he's not me. I can't see me. And
Yeah.
that's a
And
big
then you'll hear the magic words. Well, that's not how I would have done it.
No,
And you think,
no,
okay,
no.
yeah, mate,
Yeah.
you're a plumber. Shush.
Yeah. But I mean, looking at the whole thing, firstly, I think, you know, Ncuti's grown into the part now. He's sort of really, he's got it. He understands.
Yeah.
he
Ncuti is the
understands
doctor,
it.
and that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
He really is. And
And also on top of that, there's a new assistant or companion. I think she's fantastic, and I think she plays off against him so well. I'm not sure that Ruby Sunday did. It just didn't feel right.
No, that was a much blander experience.
Yeah.
And again, there's a little part of me that sits there, and certainly in the way there have been discussions about it, that makes me wonder whether this might not be better off viewed instead of 2 separate seasons as one season. Because again,
yeah, I get you.
there are, I gather, things that tie in, and we've seen bits that tie in across the 2 seasons in a way that might make more of a sense
Yeah.
to have it as a continuous thread.
Well, Russell T Davies, he's always doing these huge story arcs, and you never ever know what's where he's going with them.
I mean, they've dropped little tasters for the upcoming war with the land of the sea, with little bits of dialogue here and there, and Mel's in Hong Kong and blah 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 blah. You know, but what I do like about Belinda, is it Belinda?
Yes.
Yeah, Belinda.
I never remember her name.
I know, it's all
Terrible
right.
person,
I'm terrible
old
with
age.
names.
Is that, like Donna to a degree, it's nice to have, and I hate to say this, an adult, proper grown up.
Someone who's not trying to date the Doctor or be this kind of best friend chum with the Doctor, that there's a dynamic bit.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I like the fact that she's a reluctant companion.
Yeah, she wants to go home, and it's very clear that the goal, even though she's thinking, oh yeah, this is interesting, at the end of the day, she still wants to go home.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a bit of a Dorothy complex.
I think more of a Tegan-y sort of thing there, to a degree.
also she's driven by different things, and that in the I want to go home, but also wherever I am, I'm a medical person, I'm a nurse. Do we remember Yaz, the police officer, who was a police officer on the occasions when they remembered to put in the fact that this was a skill set that they had? You know, she goes into places and she goes in as her own personality. She's
sort of Martha-y in a way.
yeah, but she's not a companion.
No.
She's travelling alongside the Doctor
Yeah.
rather than...
Also, she doesn't need, in terms of characteristics and quote unquote a bit of an character arc to her, she actually doesn't need it. No. She doesn't need it. She's pretty fully formed.
She is, yeah.
Her life was going fine until this. It wasn't a case of like, oh, now I'm a better person for travelling with him. No, she was pretty okay to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, and
usually that's that story arc for most companions, that they start off with a problem or with something that's not quite right about them, and the Doctor makes them this fantastic person. You know, Martha in particular.
they might not all just get abducted and taken to a planet straight off the bat, like she did, but you know.
She will still be able to come back with more skills than she left with more knowledge, with new things that she can apply.
Yeah.
But, as you say, she's a person to start with, as opposed to a blank slate to be written on. Though she does have very, very poor taste in men.
Yes.
yes, well, yeah.
That didn't go well, but yeah.
No, and so the episodes have been. I still think it feels to me a lot like Russell T Davies grabs onto the latest. That's not a nice thing, and then writes it large in each episode, And to a certain extent, I can imagine him in, you know, when he gets old, sitting in his seat with a walking stick, going, "That's not right." And this is
Or
his
just
way
yelling
of
at a cloud.
and this is the way he does it at the moment, you know.
Yeah.
So, but people sort of don't like me saying that, but that's how it's felt.
The only danger, well, I think looking at like social injustices, etc., using the platform, the show's not unique for that. To address certain things, etc., is all fine and good, but it also is in danger of immediately placing it within 2025.
Yeah, it dates.
And then looking back in 2029 and 2040, and we will look back and go, "Oh God, yeah, do you remember them?"
Yeah. Previously, when the series has done any kind of social commentary, when you go back and look at it, the stories should stand up without necessarily connecting to something that happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, say, Peladon and the EU, as it became, and the miners' strike and all that. So, you know, there are a number of things which you should be able to pick up on, but not, oh, so this relates to that.
Yeah.
And actually, how can I put it? I would say that the Chibnall years probably were a bit more. I can tell you what date this appeared in the news. This feels. Again, the last story that's been broadcast has a lot of analogies, which in the future are just a thing.
Yeah. But now they're quite important.
Yeah.
One thing I do think is good, and I'm glad. I mean, Russell T Davies has said itself. There was no way we could not ignore this. The fact that by casting a black actor in that role, it does change the dynamic. Whether people who say, "Well, I don't see colour," idiots, say things like, you know, having go in historical settings when you cannot shy away from it. That would be an insult, if anything.
Yeah, it's so difficult. You know, when they did cast him, I just thought, it's going to be really hard to go back to certain places because he won't be the person that is the centre, you know, is in the centre of the room because he won't be allowed to be because of his colour.
And he is the second person as well.
Exactly.
Previously, you had a woman who, travelling in time, potentially can be a nightmare if it's during any time of the British Empire or any of that. Or even
or getting ducked in the pond.
Today will do. That you are not taken as seriously. You are not the centre of the room.
And whilst, you know, David Tennant was in his watch, as it were, you know, there's Martha that has to be the servant.
Absolutely.
And you know, it was. I thought the episode with the barbers was lovely because he had to explain that he had to go back there because then he could be himself. You know, as a black person, and it's you know, and he needed that escapism. But I thought he was a bit judgy when he was shouting at the guy for bringing him over for, you know, because he knew he had good stories. I thought that was quite mean. It's a bit victim blaming, isn't it?
I don't think that's what he did.
No.
One of his stories would have been of the Doctor, and the Doctor wasn't brought there. The Doctor. The TARDIS just landed there.
He did go there. Yeah.
But he sort of said, "Oh, you didn't warn me," or something like that. It was very odd.
You did walk in the door. It slammed shut a bit late at that point.
Yeah. It was very odd that he had to go at him. I think we all sort of, me and my sons were like, victim blaming here.
There are a couple of bits in that story, and again, the writer is a very good writer, but has not written for Doctor Who. And I'm just wondering if there are a couple of rewrites that they might have changed something and sometimes little bits like that they leave in and they don't necessarily make sense.
But it doesn't work.
You know.
What I thought was interesting though was as a black person watching it, although my experience isn't culturally the same, there are links, there are similarities, but to see, quote unquote, that's not a black barbershop, that's a Nigerian barbershop.
Yeah.
I think we need to make that abundantly clear. It's not the same, but at the same time, I, as somebody who grew up in a community, etc., where I was be like West Indian barbershops, etc., and the experience of watching particularly watching my father in them, where he'd be holding court, you know, to see that on primetime TV and not just be sidelined. And some people say, like, you know, it's like an episode of Desmond's or anything like that. It's not the same. It's not the same. But at the same time,
I said that to you.
But at the same time, there was a moment in the recent episode, the Interstellar Song Contest, which to me shook me to my very, very core, because something happened in that in the 60 plus years of the show that I'd never in a billion years would ever expect them to ever do with any of the Doctors. And I'm going to use a word here that might cause a little bit of confusion, but it will make clear. He chupped.
Oh, the noise. Is that the noise he makes?
To hearing the Doctor go,
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
what that?
Yeah.
I was just like, did that just happen?
Yeah.
I used to get slapped on the back of the head for doing that in front of my father.
He's done that a couple of times.
Me not hear that.
I used to live in Peckham.
No.
No, he's done that a couple of times through the series. There's been
It's the first time I picked up on that. And
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because my builders do that as well, and they're not black.
You learn these things. To be fair, there is the white British equivalent of which can kill.
Absolutely.
In the same.
You see my builders go.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to say, see, you say that, and all I hear the word.
That's the zeros.
Yeah. All I hear all I hear is cost you.
Yeah. It's literally zeros on the end.
Ooh, cost you that. But getting back to the show, plumbers aside.
See, I would say,
plumber.
and I don't know, for those who've experienced a barber of any type,
Long time ago.
That's a barbershop. That's not a particular barbershop. You have people telling stories, you have people coming in, you have people dropping down and talking about things, and maybe there's a problem person who's around. It's the closest.
Didn't hear the magic words though. Will there be anything for the weekend, sir?
Something for the weekend.
No. Well, obviously they were all stuck in there, so there's no weekends.
Where they go. But yes, as a whole though, I think this season has been like I don't want to say vast improvement, because it makes it sound like this last series was really bad. It wasn't. It's just better.
It felt like I felt like they didn't know quite where to go with it the first season. And I think that was because of the Disney influence, and it felt very Disney. Everything was a bit Disney-fied.
Finale was very flat as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and possibly ill-conceived. Do you know what it is? I mean, in terms of, as you say, the money they spent on it, the way it looked, all of those things, definitely that they're not dissimilar. You know, plainly they're similarly glossy and all that. But it's the difference between a jelly that sets and one that doesn't. It's all the same ingredients, but if it's just slop on a plate...
Yeah, you want a decent wobble.
Yeah. And
I like a wobble.
We all like a wobble.
She was close to having a wobble, I tell you.
But yeah, it's so it's not a vast improvement. It's just the right things have been done to make it shape itself into something you can watch and go, I really enjoyed that.
But you mentioned the word gloss there, and this is going to go. I first picked up on that really during the Jodie years. That's when I felt that, and the show, since 2005, the show's never been cheap per se. And in fact, if anything, you watch it through the years since then, and you can tell how the budgets have gone up and up and up, which is all fair and good as long as I get to see that on the screen.
I thought the Chibnall era was beautifully shot.
Yeah, exactly, but
quite a lot of lens flare.
Yeah.
But we'll say this: since the 60th and since the Disney money, it's just cinematic, and I think that's the biggest difference. It's purely cinematic.
I don't know how I feel about that as an old fan. Because for me, one of the things is the lack of money drove plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's definitely felt like, look at how much glitter there is.
Yeah, I know.
But that's an interesting point, because even some of
that was the first series though, and I think they've realised that there actually needs to be some substance behind all the show tunes.
But to me, I mean, going even right back to say when Doctor Who Weekly started in 1979, one of the I think it was Dave Gibbons, one of the artists, who was saying how I could draw 50,000 spaceships and they're really good, but is that really Doctor Who?
No.
Because when you make it more and more Star Wars / Star Trek in its kind of like sheen and everything else, it does take something away from it.
It's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy thing. You don't want to be on a glossy spaceship. And that's literally how Douglas Adams wrote Hitchhikers. He wrote Hitchhikers having just been script editor for Doctor Who, and it was the interesting bits are not when you are on a Star Trek glossy spaceship. It's when you're in the crew quarters and everything smells a bit and there's dodgy blankets. And it's actually what would be real rather than the fantasy of space travel.
Yeah.
You know, no one spills anything on themselves in Star Trek.
No. I mean, the daddy of all those is the original Alien, in that regards of that kind of like used. Not well. I mean, George Lucas initiated the used future thing with the first Star Wars, and it's called Star Wars, New Hope lark. Anyway, but then of course Ridley just took it even further and just made everything leak.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
But that would actually suit Doctor Who. It really does. I mean, I tell you what, I do miss though.
He's usually got loads of leaks. Tell the storyline.
Character-wise, though, what I do miss from the classic series that was definitely since 2005 we've never really had, and that's kind of a much more of a intergalactic sort of or either a wheeler dealer or just a moaner or something like that who's so of Earth of whatever the year it was made.
Glitz back.
I want Glitz back. In short, I want Glitz back. No, we're not just Glitz, but there's a fair few characters like that. You know what I mean? Who are just kind of like, yes, it's set in 3073, but that guy could be talking like it was last week.
Yeah.
And it's the same moans, and because they're all human, and human beings do that.
Because you go back 1,000 years, you'll find them.
Exactly.
You go ahead 1,000 years, you'll find them.
Well, talking about going back years, obviously we've got Susan now appears.
Spoiler warnings.
Yeah, spoiler warnings.
You've seen it.
But she,
And if you haven't...
and the original actor as well, which is lovely because, you know, they're all popping off, so it was nice.
Carol Ann Ford looking fabulous.
Yeah.
She's in her 80s.
She's in her 80s now, but you know, she's...
I'm glad they brought her back before she did pop off, to be honest.
Tell you wouldn't think it though, to be fair to her. She looks great.
No, she's doing well. Again, she does do conventions and things like that, so she's still going around and doing things. The only... do we think it's going anywhere?
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's been sort of like in a fantasy sort of thing. He's just been seeing her.
She is supposed to be telepathic, but...
Yeah.
I don't think we'll find out in the finale.
Was it officially?
I think it's a setup for the future.
Was it ever officially established in the show that she is Gallifreyan?
She is the Doctor's granddaughter.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that's all we
that's
know.
Is the Doctor Gallifreyan?
No.
We don't know, do we? Because of the old
The
thingy child.
No, I'm thinking more about the Paul McGann, the movie.
Well, this is the boat.
There's that as well, you know.
He is... Well, again, there's a number of things which now conflict.
The reason I asked that, though, in the first place is that, I mean, obviously it's the same actress and she's aged, etc., etc., but so she's not done the old regeneration sort of thing.
Well, not yet.
Well, not yet.
No.
We'll have a brand new season.
She's obviously had a very charmed life and not needed to.
Given she was dropped off in a post-apocalyptic world after the Daleks had decimated it. And,
with David.
Yes, with David. Also, if she is... And this is, again, if she's Gallifreyan or is she a Time Lord? Because, again, those two things may not be the same thing.
Yeah.
And if she is those things, how old is she now?
409, I think.
Because the Doctor's got getting on a bit.
Can't even calculate the Doctor's age yet.
Well, he just lies, doesn't he? He just says he lies about his age.
He did say, I think, in the Devil's Cord, that just because she is his granddaughter doesn't mean that she was his granddaughter by William Hartnell's Doctor.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he couldn't, in future, become a grandfather, which would make her. I think there was just that kind of... Just because he knows her now, and he could have another 100 regenerations, and in that 100th he might marry, have children, they might then have children. That's her. She ended up back there. This is time.
Timey-wimeys.
Yeah.
Nah, forget Susan. Bring back Jamie.
Yeah, you want Jamie.
I want Jamie back.
Oh, yeah.
I have to say that he hasn't got much left.
That's a regeneration you're probably not going to get. I'd like Zoe myself.
Zoe, Padders.
President of Earth.
Absolutely.
By all accounts now.
Yeah.
Didn't she do well?
Good game.
Well,
Good
well,
game.
they both appear on the Tales from the TARDIS
Yeah.
episode,
Yeah.
so you know.
He's got 500 grandchildren and she runs the world. I mean, it's, yeah.
Hey.
Power couple.
So,
Rani,
wow,
Rani.
the big shock. We say shock, but
A shock that it actually was true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because how many times over the last, since it came back, has it been said?
anagram of Rani is rain and rain is a flood. Yeah.
Any woman
River
who
as
turned
well.
up is the Rani.
Yeah.
And any man and pet and literally anything for a while.
Would
it was
be
just
the Rani.
The last time I heard the biggest, prior to Missy, which was another obvious one, which turned out to be completely opposite, was the episode of Midnight. There was a lot of speculation after the episode of Midnight. You're like, oh, no, well, no, you think about it. And you're like, no, well, actually... And I remember thinking,
No.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Stop it.
yeah,
Get away from me, please.
watching people actually having tinfoil hat wearing meltdown.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest here. It was nice. It's the Rani. But do you remember when the Master came back and it was deep, foreboding, brooding,
Yeah.
dangerous? It felt dangerous. This felt really like I'm just running through. By the way, I'm the Rani. I'm not stopping.
Yeah.
And it's like a
Yeah.
bit of a comedy duo
Yeah.
thing going on between.
Yeah.
I've never...
Self.
Well, I liked... Going back now, while I actually was a fan of the character per se, she wasn't that... I never felt her to be that special.
No.
You know, I mean,
is
she's
probably why
not
it's taken
inherently
so long.
evil. She's just got no moral compass.
Yeah.
She wants to experiment. She is
Yeah.
a scientist. She wants to see how things work and do things. But again, she was never particularly jovial.
No.
She wasn't particularly funny. The second Rani does feel more solid about it.
No.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Rani is that she is probably cleverer than the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's certainly cleverer than the Master.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's her first appearance in Mark of the Rani is easily the best of the two. We don't even count the third one. In fact, we'll all agree we'll never speak of the third one. But in Time of the Rani, she just came across as just like a pantomime villain in that. Whereas she's far more nuanced in her first appearance.
Yeah.
You know, and
It's
she
I mean-
has a good argument as well about pork chops.
It's a very difficult one because, you know, the masters in the past, they've either come across as being just completely pantomime villain or they've actually been quite deep. And I actually, my worst one actually was John Sim because I just felt he was just playing it like, you know,
Silly.
playing it silly, yeah.
like
Got
David
the
Tennant
drums.
turned up to 11. Just, I'm going to be more wacky
Yeah.
than the Doctor rather than...
Yeah.
I
I quite like the bit about him being when he was hungry and he was just going bonkers about eating things. I mean, that was quite interesting. But then, you know, when he became the president and everything, not the president, the
issue,
prime
though,
minister, it was just
the problem I find with the Master is that they got it right first time.
Yes.
Absolutely, in the same way that it's like casting Connery or something. It's like you just got it so dead on first time, where everybody else, there may be some good ones along the way. I'm sorry, but you're never gonna.
I will always then stand up for Michelle Gomez.
I do like, and I loved her.
Yeah.
I loved her. She brought the silly, which was on the right side of silly as well.
But
yeah,
also...
it was different. Silly.
Also, there are just bits when you watch her doing the acting bit that there's a lot more depth going on
Yeah.
with her performance.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, I still love the bit where they arrive on Skaro and she realizes she's on Skaro, and you actually see in her expression, basically, oh shit.
Yeah.
And she just does it with an expression, and you don't. The
Yeah,
only other
she
one
is
would have been
fab.
Derek Jacobi,
Yeah.
Yeah.
who again could have been
Great.
has been,
But
but yeah,
that was a tease.
Yeah.
An evil tease.
But the Rani.
Yeah.
And here we are now with two Ranis and a
The two
racist.
Ranis.
Two Ranis and a racist.
Yeah.
If that is the Trinity that they're going on about.
Yeah.
Well, it could be throwing us off.
It has to be said that Russell has said that the Rani is only counting as one.
So who is the third?
There we go. And also, I think spoilers again, it's in the Doctor Who magazine, so it's publicly out there. But apparently the other one is 160 years later. Or away. That was the line, 160 years away.
Oh, right, okay.
And that is interesting because that makes it around about 1830 something. Or 2185.
I think it might be the guy that they've just carted off on the Interstellar thing.
Yeah, except he's 29.
Okay.
If that's 2,900. And this is just a weird conjecture. If it is 2185, we know someone who's in that era.
Do we?
She popped up as a flashback for the Doctor whilst he was freezing to death.
Oh.
Of course. Yeah.
Now, what if Susan is the third partner? Or the unholy trinity? Bear in mind she has been just left there.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's happened.
Yeah, she might be a bit pissed off with him.
So...
You left me.
Yeah. Well, also left you in a timeline which I think no longer exists. Because bear in mind, then Genesis of the Daleks happened, which changed the timeline.
Yeah.
So, being... I don't know. All I'm doing is saying 2185 is an interesting
Yeah, very
era.
much so.
It would be a number of years after, and if it had been a regenerated Susan, and you'd had some communication with Susan, then, come find me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we just stop the bi-generational thing?
Yes, please.
I
Yeah.
hope it's
Just
the
for,
last
or at least
one.
for a bit.
Yeah. It was two together was a bit...
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Let's just not go down that road again
I think
for
they
a
just
while at
wanted
least.
Mrs. Flood to carry on because
Yeah.
it's quite
But
which is
then
interesting.
it does make you worried that they could do a lot more with that now, because that means the Master at some point's also bi-generated and all this. If like all the Time Lords are doing it, and so it's like
There's going to be millions
so
of
this
Time
could be
Lords.
fucking an
But then
endless
is
loop.
this
But they're all the same three.
no,
Yeah.
without going down the speculation route too much. I mean, nobody's what's happened to the Doctor,
Yeah, well,
to
obviously,
the Doctor.
he's gone on holiday with Donna.
Yeah.
And that does mean that he will completely miss everything.
Yeah,
What are you
Yeah.
doing scuba diving whilst the whole world was turned to dust?
yeah.
Yeah. It is a bit odd, isn't it?
And that's the problem with
There's going to be
bi-generation.
two groups.
Sorry, I
of
was on
three. It's going to be
Rachnos.
like 3 versus 3 that I've heard as well somewhere. So it's a Trinity versus another Trinity.
The Doctor, Ruby,
The other Doctor.
Yeah.
Belinda.
But then, well, it could be
Belinda.
that.
But
True.
we've got doubts about Ruby, haven't we? You were saying there's been
Well, yeah, 'cause there's
rumours.
like loads of rumours and stuff now, because there's images that have been released of the Rani dressed up with the cape holding a newborn baby. So it's like, so was it the Rani that dropped her off on the street? So there might be more to Ruby's story now, which I think would actually save the last season
it
finale.
would make a lot more sense. And
Yeah,
this
'cause
is
the
what
last
I-
It
season
does,
finale
but at
was
the same time,
boring.
there's part of me thinking, I would.
We
Something I would
reshot.
I'd love to have done is
Yeah.
just a whole bunch of fake photos just to wind people.
I
up.
mean,
Yeah.
I
It
would
could be.
That mean
I would
nothing.
not put that
Absolutely
past
nothing.
them at
Yeah.
all.
No, not at all.
to speculate, not to speculate. But I think most fans are sitting there going, so we've seen Ruby's mother. What weird behaviour on that night to dress in a sort of waist-length cloak with a hood up when you're...
But we've made a
However
massive
old.
assumption there that
Yeah.
that was the mother.
And
Well, that was
he
the
has
whole point.
admitted
Yeah.
that there's more to her than we
Yeah.
know still.
Yeah.
She can make it
Yeah.
snow.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
That's
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there was so
Yeah.
much that happened in that series.
I'm glad I
that
don't have that.
The
thing.
ending made
Can
no
you imagine?
sense to
Yeah.
it. That there has to be more to it.
Yeah,
And this is-
you'd get pissed off in Iceland if you walked
Well,
in.
yeah.
So
I mean,
it's
you know,
snowing.
if we're talking loose
The
ends, I
fresh
mean,
fruit.
the series is absolutely rife with them,
But
of
you do-
unanswered questions. Who was that woman?
But
At
so
the,
was the
who
last.
were those two women who were with Rassilon and all that sort of
So
lark?
was the
You know,
last time Russell T Davies was showrunner though. It took like years until we got a lot of.
I'm sure some of
questions
the, I mean,
answered.
TV
Well,
shows
that's
are
great. It's intelligent. and-
TV shows are
Keeps
replete
you
with that
going
though,
on.
of
Yeah.
putting things in with the idea being like, oh, we'll put them later, and then sometimes it hasn't paid off. I'm not
Or
gonna
it
mention,
hasn't
or
come in
hasn't
later.
or coming later. Exactly. I'm not going to mention Lost at all ever.
Or Stephen Moffat.
Yeah. Is he
Yeah.
lost? I hope so.
No, just shall we quickly do the exposition of where Madame Kavarian came on the Crack in the Universe? We've got 10 minutes. Let's
Yeah.
do that. But yeah, it is, and this is partly the thing where I go. Maybe watching season 1 and season 2 as one season might make it feel less unsatisfactory if you knew there was more coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Particularly when it's, found me, Mum, that's okay. So, Mum, when you dropped me off at the church, I didn't drop you off at the church. Very nice lady said she'd take you down there.
Yeah.
And she had lots of needles, and she was sort of, I think she was going to vaccinate you or something. Yeah, that probably explains the snow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
There's no thing.
And the extra head in your belly.
and your random pointing at Ruby at a sign that isn't actually there. Yeah, there's stuff going on there.
There is, and I mean, I just have a nicer feeling than I did at the end of the series. It sort of feels like it's all come round, and
I'd like another big surprise though.
Yes,
I'd
but
like
not
a-
taking
Yeah.
the dog for a walk.
Ryland's the doctor.
Ryland's the doctor. Ryland,
Everyone
obviously
is the doctor.
Ryland's Davros. Everyone knows that.
Oh God, that would be fantastic.
Just
With his
pops out and
teeth,
then plop.
with his
No,
teeth.
he's canon and, in that universe now. I want to know, though, like, if he's there and they froze him, at what time point did they get him?
Yeah,
Because
because the
Basically,
Earth
he's
was
virtually,
world ended.
destroyed.
he's virtually indestructible. He was just probably blown off as
Yeah.
one piece.
Yeah.
teeth protected him.
Yeah.
He had a fling with Captain Jack and the immortality thing. I
Yeah.
don't know. Where's my typewriter? I need to write this down.
To be fair, I'm not sure he's made out of anything that would decompose.
Well, there is that. There is that. And God love you, mate. God love
No,
you.
I'm just thinking about it. I was really excited because on the assembly, which is the interview program with the neurodiverse interviewers, which is fantastic. And David Tennant was on it, and they said, they're going to ask him about the person that has been cancelled in his life, in his career. And I immediately thought Captain Jack, and of course it wasn't. It was Neil Gaiman.
Right. Yeah.
So I was really disappointed because I was thinking, I wonder what he's going to say. But no.
Yeah. Actually, there's probably more than that, really, when you think about it.
Well, in most actors' lives, I think there's
fair
several.
few,
There's one in mine even.
Yeah. There's the problem when you're sort of reaching 50 now that you just end up going, so that's tainted, and that is, and that one,
Yeah.
and those
So
programs.
I'm just upset you said reaching 50.
I passed it.
I'm
passed it.
nearly reaching 60. I am, you're not.
Well, I'm halfway next month.
What if we
Way
talk about
there.
Yeah.
some youth instead? How about
Indeed.
young love in Robot Revolution?
Bad
God,
love.
Yeah.
Yeah, tainted
Yeah.
love.
Oh, yeah.
Do.
You see, this is the bit where social commentary is not done well. You know, if he'd literally carved incel onto his forehead using a compass, then it couldn't have been more. Okay, you're not subtle.
You see, that it did get me that it was just a bit too. There you go, RTD waving his walking stick while he's watching the television.
It's a current issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
The show?
But it was,
also
but it was a bit too clumsy.
But you do know when moments like that happen, and there've been other moments as well, where I can hear the internet going, bing!
Yeah.
Or social media going like,
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
But it just feels...
never seen, never watched it again, woke, 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 woke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
Won't tell
you just wonder, it could have been done more effectively, more subtly.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, again, the idea of the character then turning into this owl rather than AI,
Yeah.
artificial, control freak.
Yeah. He was the controller, wasn't he? The fat controller.
Indeed. Who seems to lose most of his body in the process and basically a ribcage and skull.
Yeah.
Well, he's turned to Davros.
Yeah, I was gonna
strangely.
say,
Weirdly enough, when I first saw them, I actually thought there are elements there that are definitely Cybermen. He literally had, the spheres and the cables and that kind of thing.
There's somebody's seen the little sort of teardrop thing on a wall somewhere as well. So he's putting a lot of things in, little hidden Easter eggs.
There have been little hidden tunes through the series as well,
Yeah.
other people's themes and which is
Crossover themes.
Yeah. But yeah, so we get this... They end up going to this planet, and there is this weird time break that they cross, which is apparently the reason they can't get back all this time.
Yeah.
And again, it's a bit thin on the old explanation.
Yeah.
And a dead cat as well.
No.
They vaporised a cat.
Indeed.
Yeah, that was horrible. Oh, I know what I was going to... What, here's me in my old age. Oh, I remember what I was going to ask.
I remember.
So, Doctor Who, he's a normally quite a nice bloke, but he ends up torturing that guy in Interstellar, and he's really, really going
Dark
for
side
it.
that we see, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've not seen the dark side of this Doctor currently, and it sort of coincided with him thinking his companion was dead, which seems to be a thing that as soon as he's lost his companion, he turns into some sort of maniac.
So he either cries or he turns into a maniac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All the brakes are off.
So, there he is going around telling other people they're not very nice people, and then he goes and does that. So it's a bit weird.
everyone's like tying it in because obviously the amount of people that are about to die first was like very similar to like Gallifrey
Yeah.
in that scenario. So they reckoned it was tied in with that
The
and
trigger.
that trauma. That was
Yeah.
the trigger.
Yeah.
But this is Gallifrey that he saved and then died again.
And back and forwards and back and forwards until we don't know where we are.
If we're going to talk on that, so there's been a number of analogies raised about the Hellion situation.
All right, okay.
And the big one, which I've heard, is the idea of an oppressing force coming, basically taking over an area and all of its population, and then eliminating that population and laying waste to its land, which at the moment fundamentally has been suggested it's Palestine, Israel, including apparently the use of the honey motif and the poppy and a number of bits in that. And
it was a little bit more subtle than the other things, but it's there.
There is definitely a relatable thing. There are lots of things that people can relate it to. The stupidity and futility of war. There's lots of stuff that could be done.
And actually having the poppies, it's we've just had VE Day, and it's the poppies have been out the tower.
And
so
capitalism as well. The idea that you'd destroy a whole planet so that no one else can get the flavouring for the honey.
Yeah.
Just that as a concept. And also demonising... This is the other bit. It's the demonising of a population.
Yeah.
And the whole...
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And I thought when she sang at the contest at the end, and nobody clapped, and it had to be sort of just one person that clapped before they were allowed to clap.
I thought that was a little bit of a cliche, to be honest with you, though.
I know.
I am glad that it wasn't the Doctor or Belinda that clapped first.
No.
Because it's not their place.
No.
It has to be the people...
No.
There.
You see, going back to that to Chibnall, I thought the Rosa Parks episode was appalling because of the fact that they were there. She knew them. They were there, and they helped her, but she was on her own, know, and it belittled what she'd done, and that annoyed me to the nth degree.
The whole bit with the Rosa Parks and the idea. It would have been a much more interesting story if instead of having a time-travelling villain, you just had time falling apart because they hadn't been on the bus. That's the dark bit. The fact that they all have to get on the bus and make her get arrested. And that's your lessons from time travelling. It's not always nice.
No.
And when you end up stuck in a position like that, that would have been a much more impactful thing. Some of them could have got to know her, but it's one of those ones where forcing the point is the thing here. And the way they did that was just artificially.
I didn't like it at all. It really
I couldn't see the
annoyed me.
logic in that episode of the alien.
Yeah.
There was no real logic to who they were.
The
racist
from the
aliens.
future.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, your point. You don't need to travel back. We don't need to have races from the future. We've got enough at the moment.
We've got enough everywhere.
Yeah.
But the idea of going back and stopping this pivotal moment, which then would have delayed you know, the civil rights movement or all that kind of thing, or changed it in some way. But yeah, there was some. It's an interesting story, I think, but not the one they told.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
Okay.
It was just wrong.
Yeah.
So moving forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Moving forward, we have 2 episodes left. Okay, of which I'm going to get punched by Sharon in a moment there, because I have to confess that I can't. That was a preemptive strike.
It was.
I will not be able to watch the episodes when they're aired, and I have to watch them over breakfast via iPlayer.
I know. He's been annoying me.
Well, that's because life gets in the way,
Actually,
folks.
hands up, who has watched anything on iPlayer rather than broadcasts?
Only out of necessity, I'm afraid.
Okay, there's actually.
No, I've watched them all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, like I
You're
said, it's
all
only
on
been.
Oh, Blake,
Okay. Like I said, it's only been out of necessity, though. I would love to watch them at 7 o'clock, like everybody else. Well, not everybody else, but, you know. And I wish, and I want to note that, actually, for all those who complain online about, like, on Fearmonger again, about the ratings and this, that, and the other, it has one of the highest shares on iPlayer.
Yeah.
It has one of the highest shares on Disney Plus worldwide. And yet, but because people are watching it over their breakfast, etc., and not watching it at 7
time.
o'clock.
It's not
Oh,
the
therefore,
evidence.
therefore,
Well, I try and watch
telly
it at
has
7 o'clock.
changed,
Better
folks.
to have the free. No one watches live TV anymore, do we?
I
do.
watch a lot of live TV.
I do.
But
A few shows, I do a few, but I don't watch much TV in general, though. Yeah,
but I don't have to.
yeah.
And that's something which a few of us here are possibly, we are used to having linear television.
I'm used to having a linear television. That's the thing.
But the availability of it not. I mean, I have been away one weekend.
Yeah.
I was at a party another weekend. I was doing various things.
Yeah.
Previously, in the distant past, I'd have got home and would have had nothing to watch because that was it. It was broadcast and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And now,
And then you could record it on your VHS and
and now I can go back and watch the original
Exactly.
Daleks. It's just, I can watch.
it's amazing,
it all.
isn't it?
Just
It's
like I
amazing.
say, the television habits or viewing habits has changed forever, and I think people need to get their heads around that fact and accept that fact.
Is anyone's going to see it in the cinema?
I'd
I
like
want
to, but
to.
I think me and
can't be
Sharon
bothered, to
are.
be honest with
I
you.
think.
Yeah, we'll sort it out.
I've been to a few before, including one in American land. I saw the first episode with Bill.
Oh, really? In American?
Yeah, I
land?
saw
Okay,
that.
the
I saw,
pilot.
thank you, the
Not
pilot.
the pilot.
Not
Not the pilot.
The first Bill episode. I saw that in Columbus, Ohio, and myself and my friend Mike, and we were.
Ohio, 'cause I'm
it was full, but it was about 80% women.
Good.
Which was interesting.
Yeah.
But then I saw Day of the Doctor in a very, very, very packed cinema, and a very, very sweaty cinema at that, actually.
Ew.
The guy sat near us reeked.
Oh dear.
And the two, there was, because there'd been rumours of Tom Baker turning up, there was a smattering of applause when he did turn up. But the big shock, the one that blew the roof off, was that with the magic line, "No, sir, all 13," and a big
Yeah.
close-up of a pair of eyebrows.
Yes.
And
Attack on
nobody
Titan.
saw that coming,
No.
and the roof came off the building. It really did.
That's the first time they've shown of like a future Doctor, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
before it's happened.
They've been able
You know?
to. It's the first time they've
Yeah.
been able
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the point being, I probably won't be going to see it at the cinema. But, yeah.
I'm always.
We were a bit disappointed last time, weren't we, when we went?
Well, yeah,
it-
because obviously the last.
Oh no, I saw
season's
Deep Breath,
finale
sorry,
was
as well.
depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't sort
Yeah.
of.
Also, I'm glad that the broadcast. So it's going to be at the same time as it's going to be broadcast live on TV. They're not releasing it on BBC iPlayer early this time,
Yeah.
No.
which
That's
is a
fine.
good choice
Yeah,
because they have
that's
to
okay.
do that. If they're putting it in the cinema at that time as well, it's just
I
going to
will
be
have to wait.
worldwide.
And I won't be watching it
launch.
until about 11 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
But you will not be looking at anything else
No,
prior to
no,
that.
no,
because-
I
no,
actually
no,
really
no, no.
enjoyed the last finale when we went at midnight because at 11 o'clock they had the first of the 2 episodes, and then at 12 o'clock on the dot they had a message come up, and then they played the episode
Right.
exactly as it went
Yeah.
into Saturday, which was nice
Yeah.
because it was kind of just that atmosphere being there. Because I've been to a few like films midnight releases, and it has got this like special atmosphere to
Yeah.
it. So it's a shame that's not
Yeah,
there this time.
Both Day of the
Oh.
Doctor and Deep Breath had that same thing about it was coincided with the time they were on at that time or whatever the time it was being screened.
Yeah.
But did they have anything extra
Oh, there was something. I
They
can't
had,
remember.
they had a thingy from Ruby, had like a special message before it came on.
Right.
Yeah, that was right.
Because
yeah.
when they did
Yeah.
Deep Breath, they actually had immediately went to a Q&A at the National Film Theatre with
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Peter Capaldi and hosted by Frank Skinner of all people. And,
Yeah, oh.
He's a fan.
He's a fan, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. But yeah, and he just said, you know, what are you going to do? You know, if you ever leave, will you ever come back? And he went, oh, I'm not too sure. He goes, do Big Finish, come on, do Big Finish. But
Give him some time. When he fancies.
you know, I get money from Suicide Squad. You know.
Yes. Yes, he does.
I'll get a wee chunk for that, I'll tell you. DC money.
The proper money.
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, looking forward to it. Like I said, I want a big, because the Rani turning up to me, it was like, oh right, yes, the Rani. I wasn't like, because even with Sutek last year, I was like, oh my god, it's Sutek. You know, I haven't had that yet this season.
we
I'm
want-
more excited for the main plot, like what's
Yeah.
going on, what is the
I
plan.
want a
I'm
bit
more
of,
excited
I
for
want a
that.
bit of peril. You know, we've not had a lot of peril
Nice
recently.
bit
There's got to
Carol.
be stakes. And how
Oh
many
yeah,
And eggs.
a nice big steak.
I mean, the
I don't like
synopsis
steaks.
says they're all split up and...
Uh,
I'm not so keen on split uppiness.
Why are we splitting everyone up?
They always
I mean,
have
that's the
to.
next one. We don't know about... It might be split up and then they'll probably come together for the actual finale.
Yeah.
Probably.
mhm.
Because that seems to be
Yeah.
a common thing that's happened in the past.
Yes, it does. Yeah, they all
Yeah.
have to have their own little battle.
they all
and
have
all
to be
come
in their
together.
own space doing their own bit of the story
Yeah.
that will
Yeah.
add
Well,
up
As long as
to-
it doesn't ping pong about too much, because sometimes
Yeah.
that happens a lot, especially in the Jodie Whittaker thing, and especially with Flux and all that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
really ping pong.
Yeah.
With you know, will we see more of hunky unit sergeant?
Yes.
Not Benton.
Yes.
That's his name, not Benton.
Hunky Unit Sergeant
It's
Not
called
Benton.
not Benton.
He's called not Benton.
Hunky Not Benton.
Hunky not
He's
Benton.
gonna die.
And
again. Not die.
As soon as he started doing his thing, so to speak, I just kept thinking, I can just see the fan fiction now, folks.
Well, we know that he, together with the unit crowd, are with the war between the land and the sea.
yes.
Uh-huh.
And we know unit are in the M1, and we conjecture he may be dating Kate Lethbridge Stewart,
Yeah.
which is an intriguing left turn, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for
Don't
her.
you mean turn left?
I was saying turn left. But yeah, it's good for her.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Good for her.
absolutely.
More
Yeah.
power to us.
And I did like to see. I like her nasty side.
Yes.
Do not mess with this person at
No.
all. Oh yeah. When push comes to shove, she will push and she will shove.
Yeah.
Literally ready to kill.
Yeah.
at that
Though-
point.
Yeah.
Here's a thing that has come up, and again, Conrad, we believe, is in the end episode. I don't know whether both of them or one of them.
Well, she let him out of jail.
She did. It is, and you got a little bit of it with Kid as well. It's the bit where the doctor has a go at someone and they just don't care.
Yeah.
And it's I deny your reality.
Yeah.
And it's that, do you really though? I mean,
Unfortunately, I've encountered recently I wouldn't even say young man, because he was about pushing 40, who is so trapped down that rabbit hole. No matter what facts you present to them, it's still, you'll hear the magic words, yeah, but they say that.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, what
The question
can you do?
is always, what
What can
would you convince? What would you need to convince you that this wasn't true? And if there isn't anything, you're a fundamentalist, and that's that.
Yeah.
But if you know that you're a fundamentalist, then you'll know that there's a problem.
Yeah.
So that's the trick with that. But it's
Yeah.
the thing with Comrade. Comrade isn't someone who believes this. He is someone who blows. He is literally the one doing the podcast. He is the one selling basically an untrue version of the
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
for profit.
Yeah.
So he knows that this is not true.
Yeah.
And yet he still continues.
Yeah, because
To
there's
peddle it. Yeah.
Yeah.
the great American word, the grift.
Well,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It is the Hopkins and the
It's
those
yeah.
ends
Oh,
of
yes.
the market.
Are you saying, Mr. Don't bring Alex into this. Come on now.
I was thinking Katie, but
Oh,
there we
don't.
are.
Yeah.
It's the idea of the people saying what will make them money,
Of course.
but again, for him, it feels, I don't know, it feels weird. And likewise, Kid has decided, because I was just going to say, Kid is technically, if it is the description of what's happened, he is the victim of war crimes.
Yeah.
He is actually someone who's come through a genocide and then has been demonised.
Totally desensitized as well
Yeah.
to all the things he's seen.
And him planning on doing this is completely unacceptable. But then the Doctor tortured someone who was a victim of war crimes. And also came in from the position of, you're just that kind of person. Are you though?
I'll get back to Colin for a second, though. I mean, if there's any form of redemption,
it was
it's
a
going
bit
to be
weird, that.
it'll be a struggle for me to accept it because they've painted him as being so obnoxious,
so
unredeemable that all I just think is just someone run him over, please.
Go back and take back the 50p.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Just slap him. Yeah.
But again, that should not be what Doctor Who is about, because the point about it is there should be some way back.
Yeah.
Because there are, as
he
I'm sure
always
you see in
offers
the comments.
He always offers them, a way out. And if they don't take it, then that's when he just goes
but it's the famous
nutter.
it's the famous hypothetical scenario that he paints to Davros.
Yeah.
And then Davros just says, "No, I know I would do it. I would put me among the gods." And all that.
Though, of course, wouldn't it be great if he said, Davros, come with me? And he went, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
All those wacky adventures.
Oh, it's good you've got nice ramps in here now. So where are we off to first?
And they finally fixed the lights.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
The set designers and the set shifters on that, I must have gone like, they want us to do what? About 400 of them.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But there we go. Yeah. So, but we're happy.
Yeah.
We're happy.
Happy.
We're in a good place who-wise at the moment.
We have 2 episodes to come.
I know. I'm worried that they'll be awful. There's still
glass smashed on the floor. Them on our empty.
There's
We'll
still
probably end up with
that
more
worry.
questions and answers as per usual,
Which is fine. As long as
there's a good old bit of peril and a good old ending.
And actually, do we care if there's more humour than there was with taking the dog for a walk? Because that was supposed to be dark and death and everything, and ended up not relatively silly, but it ended up not spotting its own silliness.
What I would like at the very least for this kind of like finale, etc. For this, like I say, this peril thing is not to be on such a global scale that it affects everybody, because they get instantly forgotten, and that's a trait that really annoys me. It's like, oh, well, it's going to end. We have a Dalek invasion, this, that, and the other. And the next week, it's like, oh,
we have to have a reset switch.
Yeah.
The moment it's big enough. Given that the next story is called The Wish World, and the story after is called The Reality War, I have a feeling there is almost certainly an enormous reset switch.
I still feel that there's a possibility that it's not even the real
Trump's
reality
be in it.
in general.
The whole thing all the way back.
Because you're still the underlying of the giggle. There's still so many things of that popping up. All the way from obviously Lux in episode 2, with Don't Make Me Laugh and all that, and then even with the Interstellar Song Contest, a lot of people have pointed out that the logo with the thing on the top was the giggle. So there's loads of little things like that have been put in still. And also like there was always the rumours is she like the story was it a thing of stories and all this stuff, and that would make a lot of sense if it wasn't reality as such,
and then Ruby wakes up, and then there's Bobby Ewing in the shower.
Is it the
It's all a dream.
Is it the trickster at work?
Yeah.
Is it the trickster who made everything change when the Doctor was at the edge of the universe?
Quite possibly.
There's loads of things because it's
left
been brought up a
large.
few times, hasn't it? That are things it has they seen.
Yeah.
Breaking the fourth wall. It's all the breaking of the fourth wall.
Yeah, that's been all very weird.
There's part of me that in fact, I think, fair play, because, I mean, Russell T. Davies said himself, if you tell me not to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
There are no rules. Do not tell me there are rules. There are no rules.
No.
There may be your perceived rules, but there are no rules.
Oh, don't tell my writers
I think
that.
a little bit is a lot better than too much.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you can literally overegg your pudding.
Yeah.
And
I always teach my writers, you have to learn the rules before you can break them.
yes.
It's just, I mean, you know, are we going to get the side eyes like in a John Landis comedy or something where somebody says something, just literally goes,
Yeah.
That was a bit of a deep dive. That's to apologise to film fans.
As the right person doing that, it might even work. But it's just, my big concern is it's all a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that means, so did any of that count?
Yeah.
How far
Yeah.
back?
It gets a bit it gets a bit like that when they do the Bobby Ewing moments.
Well, it could be a good reset of everything. Like, okay, that means the bi-generations didn't really happen, etc. So it's a good way of just clearing it and being like, right, okay, that's done.
And Sylvester McCoy has just left Perryville.
Yeah.
No time or nothing. We're right back to the beginning.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe not that far.
Oh,
They'll have to make obvious with the point.
Oh, we've managed to get all the way far
Russell,
back as Joe Martin.
I was going to say, Russell T Davies is do anything to get rid of Eccleston.
Go way back to the Fugitive Doctor. Yeah.
Well, do you know what? If you started with the Fugitive Doctor and went on from there,
There's no regeneration at the end of the series. She's just a doctor in the next series. It's 'cause
we've just picked up at a completely different point in part of the timeline.
Yeah. Well, you know, it could be argued you do that anyway.
You could.
Yeah, but I think people need something, the satisfying endings.
Are you talking about narrative conclusions?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
I think we all need narrative conclusions.
We all need that, and I think we've been
Closure
sort of.
is the word.
I think we've sort of been lacking in the last. Well, you know, so
Yeah. Also, anyone noticed that Rose isn't working at unit anymore?
is she not?
She's not there.
Yeah, they killed her. They shot her.
Where was the day off?
Well, hopefully they didn't just sweep her up as dust last time and just
Yeah,
she's
maybe.
No,
reincarnated.
she's off having an adventure with.
She's scuba diving with Donna.
Exactly. With
Worst employee of unit. Where are you when there's an invasion? Underwater?
the new version of the Doctor, the 14th Doctor.
Yeah.
on the
Just a
14.
little trip away, yes. And then we came back and found everything was gone.
What have I missed?
Yeah.
All good.
Everyone's just looking really frazzled.
What's the name of the child? The boy.
Poppy.
No, the boy, the young,
What?
the child genius for unit.
Oh, Morris.
Morris.
Yeah.
Morris. Yeah, he was noticeably absent.
He wasn't
as well.
there. Yeah.
In school.
Essentially,
Got exams.
He wasn't.
basically-
Even the segue.
basically he was filling in for someone else's not able to do it that time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One thing we haven't mentioned is Poppy turning up.
Oh, the baby. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still wandering around
Yeah.
just randomly.
I think
Space
I
Babies
have
2, The
seen
Revenge.
a picture with Poppy.
Yeah, I have. I
Yeah.
have. Yeah. But it's one of those things where I'm not going to look at it. I don't want to
No,
know.
I didn't want to know, but I
don't
just
wanna know.
accidentally saw her.
You know, there'll be an earwax monster next or something like that. You know,
Oh, that
it's
was
the
horrible.
invasion of the belly button fluff. You know, 'cause-
Oh gosh.
Well, we've already had Sleepy Dust, so yeah.
Well, yeah. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
so
the dandruff destroyer.
do not tell Russell T Davies these things
No,
because
no.
he will
Oh,
go, what would
just
Stephen
sent the
Moffat
email."
do? And what could I do that's just sideways of that?
What we haven't had this season is the everyday terror.
Oh.
Yeah.
We haven't had that, and I'd like a good old fashioned one. That would be nice.
Well,
that would be nice.
We've
What
had
is
the
that?
dust
Yeah.
in shadows. We've
Yeah.
had the thing over your shoulder. Oh, no, we have. The well.
Yeah, but I'm
that's-
thinking more about
The feeling of something behind you.
yeah, or just like oh god, was it? It was a Sarah Jane Adventures episode with the pen. There was something to do with pen marks, and they would turn up on people's skin and stuff like that. I want that sort of thing,
Okay,
everyday
yeah.
sort of object.
Domestic,
You know.
yeah.
Yeah, something domestic,
A
but
domestic
you
thing,
just put a
yeah.
little twist on
Like
it.
the bins eating
An everyday
Mickey.
thing, like the
Not like the bins eating Mickey.
not
no.
the bins
We'll never
eating
have the
Mickey,
bins
no,
eating
no,
Mickey.
Yeah. Ah, it's all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Should have
Yeah.
probably.
I wonder if Martha's divorced
Should have
him by
properly.
now.
I was going to say should have properly digested him.
Oh, yeah. Is Martha just sitting somewhere going, I just don't make the right choices, don't I? I gave up Dr. Tom and I ended up with Mickey.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can I say?
Yeah.
But right, well, as it's been quite a while since we've done one of these little shindigs, looking back in 5 months ago, Christmas even, the War Games in colour. It suddenly appeared. Now, on a technical level, wow. Wow. How do we feel about it, though, for all those who are a big fan of the Epic 10-parter?
Is anyone here a fan of the Epic 10-parter?
Yeah, big fan. Big fan.
Really
I
am.
like the cliffhangers.
It's 5 episodes are fantastic. 6 are, they're not bad ones, but it's kind of like, no. But then episode 9 kicks in. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest episodes in the show's history ever.
I actually was ill once and watched the whole thing back to back.
Oh, okay.
And actually, do you know what? Watching it back to back, it does not sag.
No.
Which is weird. There is enough things going on for it to continue on. It's long, but there are films that are longer.
I mean, there are other stories in a similar vein, in the sense of where there are a lot of repeat beats.
Yes.
They go to run this place, they get captured. They run this place, they get captured. They end up back in the first place again.
Yeah.
I mean, Planet of the Spiders is always one for that. where it's
But
just-
you get some interesting characters pop up there, and also some interesting actors who are
Oh yeah.
very early in their career.
Oh
a few
yeah,
of them.
yeah. Well, Rudolph Walker said himself. He said it is still his proudest moment.
And
was
he's-
being on that. Yeah.
I mean, he's damn good in it
And
as
he's
well
very
for
good
the
in that.
brief. But
Yeah.
you just said,
Yeah.
why could that character have not carried on? He could have really, And of course, Patrick Troughton's one of Patrick's sons.
David Troughton.
Yeah. Again, relatively brief, but doing well.
His second appearance in Who, if I do recall. Yeah.
And Philip Maddock being
Philip
absolutely
Maddock.
terrifying.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's between him and the one from Any of the Other World, Bennick, is it?
Yeah.
The sadist.
Oh yeah.
And those
Bennick the sadist.
Yeah, but those two are probably the two most terrifying characters, actually people-wise, in the show, because you get the impression, the way Philip is playing it, that he has got absolute control over that. Anyone could be dead on his whim. Bennick is just a sadist. It's the kind of thing that you really don't expect to see on a television program.
My one
children,
big
yeah.
kind of like moan about it, though, and it's a similar one to, and I'm not alone in this. To the colorization of the first Dalek story is, can you just turn the music down a tad, please?
Yeah. A lot of
That's
people
what
said
Turn it
Gold
that.
does
down.
it.
A lot, yeah.
Turn the thing down. It does. Does it work? Yes, it does work. It does. Fundamentally, the thing does work, and I am very, very, very interested in the next thing. 'cause
Blake's going to put the Murray Gold thing on in a minute if you're not careful.
Oh, no.
No, not that
No,
one.
no, no.
And the use of the master theme, by the way, I just laughed.
I just, that's not a thing.
I just
That is
laughed.
not
I just
a thing.
thought
That
he
is
just-
not
he
the
just-
master.
I can see him saying, "Put this in, it'll be funny."
You're just winding us up.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is not the
That's
master.
not the master.
He's great, but it's not the master.
But like I said, I'm very, very intrigued because I listened to the commentary on the Blu-ray, and Rusty Davis was saying how the whole point of this exercise, as with the previous one, is to engage a younger audience who were maybe put off by the way television was presented in the past. To be fair, I have shown Doctor Who episodes to people who call themselves fans who've come in since 2005 and have struggled to watch it just by the sheer way that it's presented, and because that's just how telly was, But then you look at it from, say, the early years right through to, say, mid 70s.
It changes a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But I think whatever works.
I mean, how do you feel? Intensity-wise, is it a watchable? Is it as watchable? Do you think? Really, it's.
I don't know. I the thing is, I go back and watch quite a lot of things. I wanted to go back and watch the Tomorrow People because when I was a kid, that was just,
Yeah, I get that.
that was that. If you missed that was you'd cry because it was just the most fabulous thing.
Jaunt
And of course, you go back to it, and it's so slow. It's so painfully slow.
Yeah.
And they've all got little English voices. they're all very posh.
You can feel the lack of money in a chunk of it. It does
Yeah.
feel, it's.
Yeah, it was. I remember Tim being the most fabulous thing in the ceiling, and it was just a couple of lights and and you know, as a kid, you must add things on in your head, you know, a lot. And I think, you know, the speed now that everything goes is just purely because people's lives are faster.
Yeah.
And I think going back and trying to watch that, it takes a long time for you to be able to slow your mind down to be able to watch something.
One thing I do
slow.
disagree on, though, is this whole idea of this notion of like, oh, well, you know, modern audiences don't have the attention span or this and the other. Well, I disagree with that. I just think that they're given the chance.
Yeah.
They have got the attention span if what they're watching is interesting enough and it will engage them. It's simple as do better.
There are enough people going back and on YouTube watching old stories
Yeah.
and watching them as relatively young adults and actually going, actually, this is really good.
Yeah.
I love when I've actually stuck friends unwillingly tied to watch An Unearthly Child.
Yeah.
And they are always surprised because An Unearthly Child just breaks a whole series of rules, including basically starting a story partway through.
Yeah.
And it's a dropping in point. There could have been a whole series prior to that, and that was the next dropping in point.
There's bits that I've gone back to watch, and I've found them a bit, ponderous and hard going. And then there's other bits that are just, fantastically delightful, and and also you remember things that used to be quite big features. That we were talking about the ace in the water, and the water goes up and down like that, and sinking sand.
Quicksand.
No, as we all know, as particularly those who grew up in the 70s, anything watery or quicksand is instant death. There's no escape from it.
It's terribly terrifying,
and it's everywhere.
Which ties into what we were actually chatting about before we started filming today. One thing that we rarely get these days, which was an absolute staple of every serial during the day, is a good, decent cliffhanger.
Yeah.
We all miss a good cliffhanger. Oh, we love a good cliffhanger. Which begs the question then, looking back, and I'm going back in the midst, do you have favourites, or do you have favourites?
In Doctor Who?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there are definitely some. I mean, the cut one from Deadly Assassin.
Oh.
Yeah. There are, when I was a child, the reveal of Scarif.
Oh
yeah.
That one. And I mean, it's Julian Glover who's just being amazing prior to that.
Yeah.
Even as a child, eminently watchable.
The hands go up slowly before they kick in.
And it does it fast enough for it, and then it turning. And that,
I would actually, I'd go same story, but I personally think there's a better one, and it's when he turns up in.
He marches in and goes, what are you doing in? Yeah,
Doctor. I remember just freaking out at that as a kid. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of like because there's many of a jump scare type one. There's episode 1 of The Terror of the Zygons where Sarah gets tapped on the shoulder.
And
there it is. It's just like, wow,
fantastic.
Yeah. But all the ones that I like had to be in peril. You had to be for the whole week going, how are they going to get out of that?
Yeah.
And those were my favourites.
Bear in mind, subsequently, given I didn't watch it at the time, I didn't watch it at the time, The Demons, the Master cliffhanger, the one where the Master is at risk.
Yeah.
The one where he is sort of exposed to Azal, and it's and you. Are we really having a cliffhanger for the bad guy?
Yeah.
Because that, I think, is probably the only one. And it is a really good one. And you do go, how will he get out of this?
Yeah.
And you don't, to be honest, you don't want the bad guy to die, because then the fun will be over.
Certainly not the Master. No. Certainly not that one who made it entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love what Pertwee, what we used to call the Master, was it old chap or something like that?
Old chap.
Yes, old chap.
I just think that's great.
Another great one is sticking with Pertwee for a second is the theft of the TARDIS in Carnival of Monsters.
Oh yeah,
it's just like that. Once again, it's like, and because purely based on the fact that that's an image that would never have entered my head.
Yeah,
and that's great. just
Yep,
like
just
boom,
the hand
coming
coming
down
out.
and pick it up, and they're like, what the heck?
And
Yeah.
likewise, again, Frontios. The
Yes.
TARDIS is destroyed.
Destroyed, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
things
not a great story in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
respect. It's not a great whatever. But it's the idea that when you're watching it,
Well, I got
Yeah.
very fanboy because I was always led to believe via various like magazines and comic strips, etc. That the TARDIS is actually indestructible, and I remember thinking at the time, thinking, really, and I already had it in my head that it's okay.
it's not entirely.
It'll be back next week or whatever,
Well,
you know,
yeah.
or
Yeah,
at least by the
losing-
end of the story.
The
so-
Doctor losing the TARDIS is always quite scary because you think, well, how the hell's he going to
Yeah.
get anywhere now?
And you can't escape.
yeah,
Because that's always the thing with, as a narrative thing, certainly when you're a child, it's
The TARDIS
if it
will
all
take
gets a
them
bit
away.
much,
Yeah.
you can escape. And indeed, Rani is a perfect example of it's all got a bit much. We're not hanging around anymore. We are fleeing.
Yeah.
And actually, the Crusade is
Uh-huh.
the same.
Yeah.
The end of that, they are all escaping from all of their various circumstances,
just to
meet
boom,
up and
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
get
yeah.
out.
But I think the one that really kind of went with me forever, I think, will always be, once again, another surprise as opposed to a peril sort of thing. Although it's a mixture of the two. And it is the reveal of the Cybermen in episode 1 of Earthshock.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
once again, no publicity, nobody saw it coming,
Yeah.
and then just boom. And I remember being literally like on the phone with my mate Rob. I was like 13 or whatever at the time. Oh my God, did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? Oh my God, did you see it? You know,
Yeah.
and so forth and so on, you know, and
Yeah.
just do that.
But, in recent years, David Tennant getting shot by a Dalek,
Yes.
that was such a cliffhanger, and I was just
That
in a
is
bit of a state.
probably the best one of New Who.
Yeah.
Because not only is
There's
it
not
him
very
shot,
many in New Who.
Rose has just come back. The Doctor is regenerating. Several other people are at the peril of death, but
Yeah.
the Doctor is regenerating.
What happens in those few minutes minutes of screen time, really, doesn't it?
And
Yeah.
they deliberately didn't put any next week
Yeah.
It's just
No.
to be
continued.
soon. You're coming
They
soon.
do
Whatever.
that
thing,
with
yeah.
any of the cliffhangers now.
But,
don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a masterstroke. That it really was.
The only
It-
other one I can think of from New Who, because obviously I'm more of a fan of New Who, I still need to go on a deep dive of classic, really. Is probably like Utopia at the end with the Masters reveal with the fob watch.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
And obviously with Derek Jacobi
Fantastic,
regenerating.
yeah.
And all
Did like the
that,
Daleks coming out of the sphere
Yeah.
Again, that's another really
because
good
like
one.
Simon's bad enough.
And we
Yeah.
know that we've lost the Daleks,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and now they're back. But yet, it's
They always come back.
unexpected regeneration is always one of those ones it's almost impossible to do.
Yeah.
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 So having that
On
one,
a business sense, it's a stupid thing to do.
yeah,
Yeah, you want people to watch it, so therefore you're going to screen. Guess what's happening next week?
Yes.
You know, yeah,
though actually just by leaving it there and go, now you will have to guess what's
Yeah.
happening next week.
yeah.
And of course, the problem is you can overdo those things very easily. If it's, well, that gets their attention. I mean, how many times has Rory died and everyone's gone, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's constantly dying.
I'll see you next week. You'll be back. So yeah, it's all of
Take note, Marvel. When someone dies, they're dead.
or better still, give everyone a shock
Yeah.
by going, no, they're actually dead.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
You've lost that character. That's how that's how the universe can work.
I mean, when Rory and what's she called?
Amy.
Karen Gillan's
Amy.
Amy. When they did actually finally get taken off by the old Weeping Angel.
And lived to death in the past.
Yeah. It's actually great. I'm fed up with them. Get rid of them.
I was actually. I mean, I obviously knew they were
I was
going,
like that.
but I was actually happy with how they went.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying, I thought dramatically. You know?
You remember we were saying about Belinda's character
Yeah.
with the Doctor is dynamic because they are different. They have common
Yeah.
elements, but they are very differently motivated. That is those three companions there, the three gazelles, always felt a little bit too closely aligned to be dynamically interesting.
Yeah.
And that's
I just got bored of them. That was it.
There were some
Yeah.
interesting stories with them, but they weren't dynamic as a group.
No.
Nah.
You know, there
No,
was
and also there were three of them were quite not very bright as people. So when they did the, no, they weren't. And when they did the,
You talk about the equivalent of the Unleashed.
yeah, when they did the equivalent of the Unleashed.
Conversation of toothbrushes. Is this the one?
I think is that what is that? Is that corn or is that barley or is that? And it was just things like that, and it stopped me from actually being able to see the Doctor as this clever alien, because all I could think of was them having
Just
this ridiculous
talking about,
conversation.
They had a similar one about toothbrushes, electric toothbrushes, and the fact that you don't have to move them particularly rather than brush your teeth at the same time. This is the reason why Unleashed or whatever it was previously ended.
Yeah.
Because literally there was nothing they could put in it that actually sounded terribly interesting. And actually, I'm sure I've seen Karen interviewed since then, and she seems less dingy than she was there.
Yeah.
And Matt seems to be, but at the time they were just a collection of very young people who felt like they hadn't actually done much or experienced much.
No,
I'm used to actors having a little bit of, grit.
Because Tennant and Capaldi were both massive fans of the show.
Yeah.
And you could tell that, and they cared about it, but they just didn't seem to give a bugger, and it just ruined it for me, really.
I did feel a bit like that with again, I'm saying this on a podcast, it's one of those ones where I felt that Arthur Darvill, when I first saw him, he seemed not very, certainly when he was being interviewed for stuff, he's just not very interested
No.
in it. It felt very much like a vehicle. Weirdly enough, I cannot remember. This is awful. I remember so much about Doctor Who, and I can't remember the names of the companions from 1 minute to the next of Jodie's Doctor.
No.
Yaz. Okay, Yaz.
Yes.
Graham. And Fella. That's his name.
Dyspraxia.
Yeah.
Block of wood.
He
was very wooden.
What are you? I am dyspraxia. That's what I am. I will fall off a ladder for you. And this sounds dreadful. I can tell you so many of the companions, the actors' names, and
you don't care about them.
It's just they didn't impact on me. Yaz started to do so when she was on her own.
Yeah.
And Graham would always get the best lines.
Graham, by far, my second favourite of New Who.
Yeah.
After Donna.
He was there as a surrogate male face so that Jodie could go, no, she's in charge.
Yeah.
Literally, he was there to move the plot along.
And that's how they felt, that all the companions were there just to move the plot along. And they never said anything interesting. They just said things that would move the story along.
And that's not storytelling.
And it was really poor. It was really poor. And that's what Chibnall's era was about, was a bit rubbish because of that.
It is stories are character driven, not characters are story driven.
No.
And that's always a frustrating thing. But again, going back, dyspraxia, I feel dreadful. He again seemed very disinterested when interviewed about the programme. There are some people who definitely got involved in Doctor Who with a view to going on from.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you can't. I mean, as a working actor myself, you can't blame them for that to a degree. But I mean, don't get me wrong. A job's a job. But in certain areas, depending on what stage you are in your career or age-wise, etc., it can be a stepping stone. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's now, that actor's working in Hollywood now. Done some TV series over there. And I was in Doctor Who.
He got profiled from that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's the difference between an actor who's gone, yes, I was in Doctor Who, and we had a time, and this was interesting, to, I did a job I really didn't want to have to do in order to raise my profile to get me somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's a different approach. And again,
It's
actors,
sad.
I mean, it's fine if you didn't enjoy a role, that's fine. And if you didn't enjoy something, but it's when you've ended up then agreed to go and talk about it with people. You've got to do things and just...
Yeah.
It is.
You're taking on something that's a huge beast.
Exactly. I mean, there are other franchises out there that have a similar sort of thing where, you're being hired not for your ability to just act, your ability to be a personality.
Yeah.
And I know Peter Davison struggled with that when he got signed, because it's like, well,
He was quite a shy
conventions and
bloke,
stuff.
wasn't
But it's
he?
just, but he thought, look, I'm just here to do a job. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I like
But-
the show and everything, but
But it is interesting seeing how he subsequently moved from there to, oh no, actually this is more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And also there are a lot of actors out there. I mean, I've been at conventions, I've chatted to a number of them, and it's just remember that when you're doing this isn't, how can I put it? You're appearing in a few episodes, you're appearing in a few stories. And we have someone else who's turning up at this convention who was a majorette who never appeared with any of the major characters in an episode that no longer exists. She has literally no recollection of the whole twirling a baton for 10 minutes on set. And she's here now. And she's actually being paid for a nice weekend. She's signing autographs for stuff. Literally, this is a pension.
Yeah.
If you
absolutely. I mean, I said to my wife about the fact that getting in any of these sorts of shows, even if it is just a one-off or whatever, then it's like it is, without sounding too mercenary about it. It is potentially a bit of an income, to say
this
the
loops us
least.
back round to Susan, who is 84
Yeah.
and is still
doing the
Yeah.
other thing.
Oh, yeah.
So the conclusion of this is, get yourself a job on Doctor Who,
Absolutely.
and you're made
Absolutely.
for life.
absolutely.
And I'm
But
going
not as a monster,
I'm going to end there because time's crawling on.
Wibbly wobbly.
And so thank you everybody for coming, and we've now caught up with ourselves. So
think we're ahead
of
Do a
ourselves, actually.
recap after the finales.
yeah.
Yes.
See how
A
wrong
lot
we were.
sooner, believe me.
Yeah, we'll find out how wrong we were over our conjecture.
So perky and
And,
wholesome.
See where we're
Wasn't
at with
expecting
Yeah.
the goodies to turn up.
Oh,
So yeah,
Tara
please.
would beast.
it. The Rani
Yeah.
did what? Backstabbing Rani?
Yeah.
Mm.
So please subscribe and watch. We're on YouTube, and this is AnyWho, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Wave, people, wave. Fake
Like
smile.
you're on a game show.
Fake smile.